to the Next Level Casino Careers Show, a series highlighting industry tips and insights from the best minds in the casino and hospitality industry. Enjoy the show.
Jasmine Takeshita, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, how are you?
Great, having a wonderful Wednesday. For those of you who may not know, Jasmine Takeshita is our Director of Talent Acquisition at San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. So happy to have you on the show and get to chat with you a little bit today, Jasmine.
I'm so excited to be here. I have to admit, I'm a little nervous. It's so exciting to be able to share our story and to be able to be here with you. So I wanted to see, are you okay with maybe shaking it out with me? I don't know if you're nervous, but it'll help me.
Oh, I love it, Jasmine. Totally.
Okay, ready? All right, shake it out. Okay. All right. Good. I think we're ready.
Thank you. I loved it. Jasmine, I totally can share your bio and your more information about you, knowing you and having worked with you for the last couple of years. But I think it would be great for everyone to hear from you, where you grew up, how you kind of got in the field you're in, and where you are today. So if you could share that with us, I'd love to hear it.
Love to. Thanks. Well, I was born and raised in Southern California in a mixed cultural family. My mother's Puerto Rican and my father's Japanese. So I was really blessed to be raised in a diverse environment. And this exposed me to many different personalities, cultures, even just within my own family. My great grandmothers would sit together and laugh, even though one only spoke Japanese and the other spoke Spanish. They couldn't communicate, but still we all got along. So I think that type of upbringing really taught me to appreciate people's differences and provided me with the foundation for success. And then my work ethic came at an early age. At 15 and a half, my mom said, okay, you're old enough, get a job. So I went to go get a job after I got my work permit, and I found a job as an invoice auditor. This was a job where I would spend 8 hours checking invoices against package slips and finding errors. It was like repetitive work. I didn't like it. It was hard for me to even focus. And then one day someone had come up to me and said, hey, you know what? You're finding a lot of these errors, but something that you're doing is helping because the people who were making errors before aren't making the same amount of errors. And what I was doing was I was going and talking to the warehouse workers and kind of helping them to see what had gone wrong. And I think that was when I realized I enjoy helping people. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I got satisfaction from helping to mentor and train. So as I worked through high school and college, I had that in mind. And my first job out of college was in a business consulting, like a consultative sales. And that gave me the opportunity to help other professionals and to help educate them so that they were able to provide better services to their clients. And I loved doing that. But to be honest, I wasn't really a salesperson. That just wasn't my forte. So I knew that wasn't going to be my forever home. And then I found recruiting. And it was just like the sky opened up and I knew who I was. And for the last 20 years, I've been blessed enough to be in third-party staffing, recruitment consulting, and until San Manuel found me. And now I have the great opportunity to be able to contribute from the inside.
It's so funny when you talk to folks, like we've talked several times and I didn't realize, every time I do realize more similarities we have, but just hearing you today and how you grew up in a multicultural home. I can relate as far as the language barriers. Sometimes in family conversations, I grew up and my grandparents are both East Indian and spoke Punjabi, and just being the first generation in the United States, just some of the challenges and the ethics and values that you learn just being in that dynamic, if that makes sense. And then I started number crunching. We're helping my uncle was an accountant, so I would pay attention to a lot of detail and analyze. But I found out through that too that I'm more of a people person. I like to get out there, talk to folks, and really connect. So I would have never known that we had those kind of similar situations going on. And I started off in real estate and sales and realized it wasn't for me. It just didn't fit my personality. I like seeing people get their results in a different way, like helping them to become the best version of themselves. And so I started my career in probation because of that. So it's just interesting. I loved hearing that. And I never would have known that had I not spoke with you right now.
Oh, I love hearing your story too. That was great.
So Jasmine, for some of our audience who may be listening, the talent acquisition falls within the HR vertical. How is it different from some of the other verticals one may find within HR?
Well, human resources is such a broad category, and within that, there are specialties. Or you can just be a generalist and be able to do multiple things within the HR realm. For me, it was talent acquisition, which is the recruiting vertical. There are specialties like benefits and compensation. There are specialties like people services and talent management, talent strategy, organizational development, even verticals like human resources information systems, back-end software stuff has become very, very popular these days. So human resources really is a very, very broad category, but I found that my niche was in recruiting, like we just talked about, being able to help people discover who they are and making that connection that can then help a business.
Awesome. And I know you've been in the industry for about 20 years or so, correct? We've seen a lot of things evolve, more so in the last few years, but what are some things that you've noticed in your career and journey that you'd like to kind of hit on today, the involvement within talent acquisition specifically?
Yeah, talent acquisition has really changed. When I started in recruiting, I literally started with a phone book. And we would cold call people. If I was looking for an accountant, I would cold call all these accounting places and talk to people, learn who they were, learn what skills, and then try to make a match. Literally, that was my Bible was our phone book.
And the phone book. Oh, sorry. I was going to say in the phone book, because I recall that when I worked in real estate, it was literally a name and phone number, and you didn't have all those additional details that you have nowadays.
No, you didn't have anything to help you out. You had to dig and figure it out. I miss that because we had the opportunity to really get to learn and get to know people and find those skills. And now we fast forward 20 years, and talent acquisition isn't just about finding candidates. It's about marketing. Companies need to be able to share their story and share the positive things about them and their culture so that candidates out there can see who they are and see if this is a place they want to work. It's about talent identification and consultation. Recruiters need to find people and help them to see what the next step in their career would be so that they can then build the next generation of talent pool for their businesses. It's about networking, community partnerships, identifying the great up-and-comers coming out of school so that, again, we can help foster and develop relationships and skills for future positions. And then it's about retention, finding the right candidate for your culture, for your environment, because that is what makes the long-term fit. And if we look at all of those things at the beginning, then long-term, we're able to raise our retention and keep people with our company for longer. It's not just identifying a candidate, finding a candidate. Our world has grown.
No, I can totally relate because having changed industries, I started off in government, then went to healthcare, and then now I'm at San Manuel or Yamava Resort and Casino now. But I've known through, just from a applicant perspective, it was the marketing, learning more about the organization, how they impact the community. That's a huge factor for me. So I think it's not so cut and dry as everyone may think it is you do have to really give more information about your organization and see how values align with your applicants as well. So Absolutely. Definitely important. Shifting gears a little bit, what are some of the challenges you face on a daily basis within your position?
Well, I'd say with talent acquisition in general, recruiting in general, it's always unpredictable. I mean, we're a roller coaster all the time. In any economy, it's going to be challenging. Whether there's too many candidates and we just can't find the right candidate in a sea of candidates, or it could be in an environment where candidates aren't available and we have to dig and really try to sell the value of our enterprise to candidates. We can't control candidates. So people are going to be people. And to be in talent acquisition, you have to accept that everybody is unique and different and that not everybody's going to do what you need them to do or what you want them to do. So we are definitely an industry of ups and downs, and we know it. But I got to tell you that there's so many highlights that every day take us through those ups and downs. We get to watch people and know that we contributed to changing their lives at times. Uh,
Definitely.
it's amazing. Even just talking to my team of recruiters, they talk every day about how neat it is to be able to identify someone's skills and find them a home, how they get to hear that thank you call that changed the candidate's life because they were able to make that connection, how they're able to consult someone and have them find a strength that they never identified before. And all of that, can happen in one day. So
Right.
it definitely is that anchor that then keeps us through those highs and lows of the uncontrollables.
No, definitely. I could just imagine how rewarding it is seeing someone land a job and that picture moment where that smile on their face is it's irreplaceable. You can't get that anywhere else, right? The same way, just knowing that you made the difference, not in only their lives, but the lives of their family members as well. So
Absolutely. There's nothing better than being on the casino floor and looking and seeing someone a year and a half later that you helped hire, and to see them grow and to see them happy and to know that you were able to contribute to someone's life a year, 2 years, for eternity down the road.
right. No, and I think also just from visibility in my position, having interface with your department a little bit, I think it's also worth speaking to the fact that some of the applicants, as you mentioned, like helping them identify their strengths, sometimes they may come for a interview in, let's just say, food and beverage, but realizing maybe their strengths more so in marketing and helping them connect with the right individuals to then maybe opening doors that they never even imagined could happen. So yeah.
Absolutely fulfilling. Most people don't know how to write a resume, and how can we as hiring managers or recruiters really expect someone to? If they were an expert resume writer, then they should be in recruiting. Their expertise they work in, and it's our job in talent acquisition or as hiring managers to know that and to coach people to highlight their skills and their strengths so that they can be visible to employers.
I think it's amazing what you all do. I don't even know. I can't even put it into words. I just watch it happen and I'm like, wow. If you could, so for me, in my current role, I'm in communications and we participate in a lot of the events that happen internally and external facing. So for me, a reward that I feel every day or what makes me feel accomplished is seeing the events become a success and getting all the input from our guests, our team members, and just how they felt, seeing the pictures capture those moments with smiles on everyone's faces. For me, that's what makes me feel accomplished and makes me feel like I got something over the finish line. In your career journey, is there a specific moment that you can think of that made you feel like I took this to something to the next level? I feel so rewarded, and just something that is going to resonate with you forever. Have you had that moment yet?
I did have that moment, and I was so glad to be able to have that here and to share that with my team, because it wasn't a personal success. It was a team success. It was a enterprise success, really. We were able to open an off-site recruitment center at Ontario Mills in the midst of a pandemic. And bringing the whole team together and making that happen was an amazing experience. And I'll give you a little bit of background. We just went through an expansion, as you know. I mean, this has been a topic of my life for a while.
Events that I was talking about. That was a lot of them, right?
Just a little expansion. And when we were preparing for the expansion, this was prior to the pandemic, and we knew we were going to have to hire thousands of new team members, and we're planning to do that. And we knew it was going to be a big hill to climb. It would be in a short period of time. And then if you can imagine, the pandemic hits, right? And not only do we have this aggressive hiring goal and short timeline, but now we have health and safety concerns, not only of team members, but we have concerns for candidates, and we needed to overcome those. And how are we going to overcome those? Not only operationally, do it right, safe for the community, but then instill some type of confidence from the community that we're doing this properly, that we have their best safety in mind, and share our story. Really hard to share your story when you can't talk to people, be with people. The energy in person is totally different than virtual. And quite honestly, we could have taken the easy route out and just went virtual and used the pandemic as an excuse. But so blessed to have a supportive tribe that allowed us to think outside the box and was willing to provide us with the necessary resources to do what we thought was right. We had open-minded leadership, executive leadership in HR and the office of our general manager at the casino that trusted and encouraged us to think outside the box and to do something different. And then we had a great team of hiring managers and a recruitment and HR team who really believed in our enterprise, the story that we had, our growth, and who wanted to share this with the community, even though we knew it would be hard. And then all this coming together really allowed for us to create first ever recruitment center in the midst of a pandemic. We brought Yamava, a little bit of Yamava to the public, and we were able to provide job consultation, interviews, on the spot offers, even pre-employment processing, all in one spot safely, and to over 10,000 visitors. So we're truly proud of the team and our accomplishments.
No, definitely. The recruitment center, oh, it's amazing. And watching it open and just the talent that it's brought. And then seeing your team, like speaking of team, seeing your team and how they've helped to bring that over the finish line. Someone who's looking to maybe join your team, what are some things that if someone's not sure if they're a good fit for talent acquisition, if this is a road that they should go down, what are some tips and advice you would give to someone who's uncertain if it's a good fit for them?
Yeah, the three things that I would probably bring up would be first, identify what you want to do and what's needed to get there. I think a lot of us think, ooh, I like that because it feels good. But then we don't take the time to really see, is that right for us? Because what we think may feel good may not be the right thing for us. I mean, for me as a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. And I thought being a doctor would satisfy me because I saw on TV, those are the people that help people. All right. So it's like a connection to doctor. That wasn't for me. And I didn't know that. And once I started digging and learning about what it would be to be a doctor, I realized, no, that's not me. It just felt good. And I would encourage people to really identify what you want to do, what you need to do to get there, and then identify the skills that you would like to focus on in order to start that journey. And then the next thing is talk to a professional. You got to network. Don't do things in a silo. Yeah. Get a mentor, talk to a recruiter, learn from other companies about that position, learn from others how they got there and their secrets to the success. Why should you have to recreate the wheel? You have so many other people out there that you can learn from. And I'm a big advocate of just listening sometimes and absorbing the knowledge that others have to offer.
Oh, 100%.
Last thing I'd say is be patient. Be diligent, but be patient. I got to tell you, there's so many times where it's like, oh, we think we want more, or we think it's time, and we feel personally it's time. But there are a lot of things, other factors that may come into play, and timing is everything. And Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Right.
So
no,
there's
definitely.
But there's nothing worse than when a team member feels personally entitled to something that maybe they didn't invest in or work for. So I really encourage people to stop and to be prepared for the opportunity for success, but don't think that you're entitled to it. Success, in my opinion, is when opportunity meets preparedness.
No, you're 100% right. Because I feel like advice I always give and advice I've followed is, one that you touched on is just talking to folks, networking, whether you have a mentor, whether you're talking to someone in the community. That's how I really learned about my current position in the organization, San Manuel, that I work for, is just through talking to individuals and learning what San Manuel was about. And I'm just using that as an example. But anywhere I've worked, I've talked to folks. I've done you see things online, you get the mission, vision, and values that you see online, but it's really getting out and talking to folks. And then it is being patient, because I always tell people, especially fresh out of college, for those individuals, I'm like, you have to give yourself at least 3 to 6 months from when you apply to when you interview, you do your background, and you actually start working. And you can accept any job, but that job that is the right fit and that really aligns with everything you're looking for, it really does take that patience, the time, the commitment. So along those lines a little bit more, Are there any specific traits for someone looking for a position in talent acquisition that you think are crucial to being successful within your field?
Yeah, within my field, it's a lot of times about soft skills, I'd say. First thing would probably be having a broad perspective and understanding of others. A lot of times, a recruiter, a talent acquisition professional really has to be that neutral party to be able to understand what the company needs, what the hiring manager needs, what the new team member needs, without any of those three entities being able to communicate it well. Right. So we have to be able to look and to put ourselves in their perspective, and then we're responsible for making that match. So I think it's important to be able to look at things from a 30,000 foot view. The
Right.
other thing I would say is be a good listener. I mean, I think that you hear people talk about listening skills, but I'll repeat it over and over again. Listening is one of the most important skills, opportunity to learn that's free right there for you. And the last thing is knowledge seeking.
Okay.
This world is ever changing, right? And the way that we operated in recruitment, November 2019 was totally different in April 2020. Totally
No,
different.
definitely.
Yeah. So without that, seeking knowledge and knowing that everything could change and being open to change, then I don't think that you can be successful just being in that closed-minded silo.
No, definitely. And I think you touched on an important piece that I like to always tell individuals is no matter where you're at in your career, just being open to learning and growing, right? There's always the opportunity to be better. And I think if we have that approach, that's how we continue to take things to the next level as individuals and then for our team. And I know team's important to you. How do you foster within your team an environment of growth and encourage them to fulfill their goals and their ambitions in their personal journeys, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And you're right. This one is a big one for me because I truly feel like a leader's success is 100% dependent on their team. We have a large responsibility to mentor and to guide. It's almost a second job. You're holding two jobs. You need to operate in a way that's good for the business and good for team members at the same time and candidates at the same time. So for me, I like to operate and have my team know that I'm approachable. That I'm approachable for any reason, whether it be you have a great idea or because you have an issue, whether it be because of a feeling or because of something that happened at work, an email. I think it's always important that my team knows that I'm going to listen and that they can approach me. The second thing is encourage creativity and ideas. Everybody's ideas here are important. And I can't tell you how many times I've put a plan together and I thought, this is pretty good. And then I throw it out to my team member and they make it amazing, something that I could have never even thought of. So again, that helped me with my success in the business, with their success. And it helped my team too, because now they're able to foster an environment creativity and they feel encouraged to stretch themselves and think of
Yeah,
new
stretch their
things.
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it just brings everything together. And the last, I think, is a given. It's acknowledgement of effort.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not acknowledgement of you met a goal. That's not acknowledgement of you're the best performer. This is acknowledgement of, hey, thank you. Thank you for saying hi to the candidate and caring about them. I saw that. Thank you for taking out the trash because I saw it was overflown and you just filled and you just decided to do it. Showing people that you see that you see
Yeah.
those little things and that you appreciate it really makes them feel engaged, makes them understand that they're valued, and it encourages them to continue to do those things, which then is a win-win for everybody, right?
Right. No, 100%. I think it's huge to acknowledge individuals for anything and everything, right? Because it really helps them even want to take on and do even more and feel that they're going in the right direction, or even if it's giving feedback, right? Maybe you see how something could have been done better, for lack of a better word. And so providing them the opportunity to grow by giving them some knowledge and nuggets to take with them as they continue to take on more, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of growth and learning, how do you continue to grow and challenge yourself having been in the industry for 20 years and not become complacent?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think just being knowledge seeking is first and foremost. For me, it isn't always about hitting a target or having a specific goal in mind. Sometimes it's just about general progress. So on a day-to-day basis, I always want to feel as though that I've been able to do whatever I could, the best that I could, in order to do my job well and to give back to my team. And I think for me, that's kind of what keeps me going every day when it's hard. I know that I can lay my head down on the pillow, and that at least I tried my best, and I will continue to try hard. And having that responsibility, that feeling of responsibility for a team, I think is always motivation and is always going to be there and force me to challenge myself, because I need to be responsible for their growth and development, for their safety in the environment, to provide them with resources to do their job well too. So that ends up being a large motivation factor for me.
You mentioned something that knowing you tried your best. And when I hear that, it makes me think of when I first started my career journey, and you're afraid to make mistakes. Right. And so, and you're not looking at it from a perspective of I tried my best. When the result doesn't turn out the way you had anticipated or the way your boss would have anticipated it, you're hard on yourself. Right. And if there's anything I could tell my younger self, it would be take those opportunities, because they're what really helps you as you move forward. Right. If there was something that you could tell your younger self, what would it be and why?
Okay, where's the list?
One thing, Jasmine.
I would say that I would tell my younger self, spend less time trying to figure out what you want to be, and more time trying to figure out who you are. I think once I learned who I was and what my strengths were, then the path to what I was going to be became a lot clearer. The options that weren't a good fit for me fell off, right? Because I knew who I was at heart. And then that kind of illuminated a pathway that was a lot more palatable for me than being young in high school, being told you got to study, you got to do well in school, you got to go to college, you got to do this, you got to check all these boxes, but for what?
Right.
I didn't know for what, and I didn't know the why behind it. So I would go back to myself and maybe give me a little smack over the head and say, you got to know who you are first before you figure out what.
Oh no, I 100% agree. Like that probably would be another one for me as well. Because I think just growing up and, like I said, being the first generation here, there was all these boxes, like you have to get A's, you have to go to college, you should be an attorney or a doctor. And it was like I had to figure out who I was at the core and why I was doing the things that I was doing. But I wasn't really looking at it from that lens at that age. I was just going and doing, and then changing, like making changes. Like I thought at first I wanted to be an attorney, then I wanted to possibly be a doctor. And then I ended up realizing like, I love working with people. So that's the way that I want to go. But I didn't really digest it I didn't stop and look at it from a why perspective then. And I wish I would have, because there's probably many things I might have done a little bit differently.
Yep.
So yeah. So speaking of why, is there any advice that you would give to a hiring manager when hiring for their team?
Yeah, this is a really hard one, because I think hiring managers, we do the best as managers to qualify team members and candidates based on skill, and we look at what the business needs. And a lot of times, sometimes we focus too much on that skill set match. So I would encourage hiring managers to look at those, make sure the skills are there that you need, right? But stop looking for exactly what you think you need to fill your role, and maybe focus on what that candidate brings to the table that could be of value to you and your team or to the enterprise. Because you may find that the value that they bring may be more important than that skill that you're looking for, or could, fill a crucial gap that you need. And I think that sometimes if we just get caught in that skills matching, that not only do we miss out on opportunities, but then we as hiring managers make wrong or less than good decisions because we're so siloed on that skill. We may miss out things like culture match and work-life balance and what's important to the candidate, which could absolutely impact that new team member's success in the enterprise down the line. And I think then also I'd say be honest. Honesty. Be honest about your position. Be honest about your leadership style, because it's not a one size fits all situation. And I think candidates can get caught up in excitement. I've been on the other side of an interview and I'm so excited and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say that I don't even hear. And I'm a recruiter. I don't even hear what's being said to me. I think it's a hiring manager's responsibility to be open and honest and transparent. This next team member is going to be a part of your family. And if you don't paint an accurate picture, or you don't allow for them to the opportunity to choose to be there with the good, the bad, the ugly, then you're not setting that person up for success. You're not setting yourself up as a manager for success. And you're actually doing more harm to your existing team member because it's so important that we maintain the integrity, a good integrity in our team.
No, I think that you're 100% right, because I have been on the side interviewing or speaking with talent acquisition, and I'm just so excited, right? And I'm not hearing everything that was said, or I can't recall the questions I would want to ask, right, before I accept a job, and then I go home and I think about it after, and you send all these follow-up questions because you weren't caught up. You were so caught up in the moment that you didn't think to ask it, and they didn't relay it, right? So I don't know. I 100% agree. I think that it should be an honest, transparent conversation, and make sure you hit on the information that is vital to applicants.
Absolutely.
Because the last thing you want to do is have someone join your organization and then things come up later and it's like, wait a minute, why didn't they tell me that when I spoke with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Or, or worse, to know that this person made a life decision change based on information that you told them. There is like I said, a deep responsibility we have as leadership.
No, definitely. As a leader, in your title, you have talent acquisition, talent. The word talent. Let's touch on that for a second. How do you spot talent in individuals? What are some key things that are like, wow, for Jasmine?
Yeah, I think for me, the things that resonate the most is authenticity. Being able to sit down and have a conversation with someone and they just express who they are. They can speak to what they do. I can hear the passion in their voice when it is just a conversation. When I walk away and I'm like, wow, I felt like I was just sat down, happened to meet that person in the airport and got their story. And this was, needed a cup of coffee and just sit back. And I walked away knowing everything that I needed to, and literally only had to ask the question, do you have any questions for me? And it's happened before in interviews where I'm just blown away. That's how I'm able to spot talent, is through that conversation. Because when someone is able to just talk about themselves and I see that passion and I can hear it, then I'm able to hone in on what their skills are and what they love doing, and then be able to make my recruiter match with my in my positions or with my employer.
Well, speaking of that, is there one time that you can think of in particular where someone totally knocked your socks off? What did that end of he or she do that just kind of blew your mind?
Yeah, it's the one that's coming to mind right now as an individual, and she was just absolutely amazing. I literally came in to speak with her. And I usually in an interview, I will give some backstory. So I'd like for an individual to know the history of our enterprise, who we are, where we came from. And I spend the first 10 minutes really giving them the journey so that I can paint a picture they can see if, this is a good place for them. And then after that, we just started talking. And this individual was able to articulate her experience, her journey, where she got there, what was important to her. She was able to articulate what she could bring to the table without selling herself. She was able to articulate what we could do for her to help her if she chooses to be with us. And like I said, we walked away and it was just like, that was just the best conversation. I wanted this person as a friend, not only as a team member. So I think the takeaway from that one is always remembering who you are and showing your authentic self. Right. And I'm not saying, hey, if you're a Raiders fan and on the weekend you paint the fair face and you're going to the game and you're acting all crazy, I'm not saying that authenticity.
That's me though.
Right?
You gave the Raiders example. I had to say something. Sorry.
I hear you. So for people who are authentic and can show their authentic self in that professional way, that's a recruiter's dream, because now we can help make that genuine connection that could be longstanding. I mean, there's nothing worse than feeling as a recruiter, really feeling that you made a good connection and then learning 90 days later, 30 days later, that you were wrong, that you didn't make a right assessment. We carry that with us.
No, definitely. And I think it's huge. I think that authenticity, like we've said a couple of times, goes both ways, right? As an applicant and as a recruiter, it's important, and it falls back into listening, communication, and everything we've kind of touched on throughout this conversation today. So I'm trying to think of some other things. I know we're limited on time and you have so much knowledge to bring. So I'm like, what else can I touch on that our audience is going to want to definitely hear? I think a huge one would be, is there anything that a recruiter typically doesn't share with a candidate that you think may be of high importance for our listeners today?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue from what we were just talking about, because it goes back to the authenticity in a way. Recruiters really won't tell our candidates how professionally and personally we're invested in making the right fit. And we understand how our actions can impact people's lives for the good and for the bad. We know that it's extremely important, the connections and the decisions that we make. And sometimes recruiters just want you to be as real as you can, to be as honest as you can on your strengths, on your weaknesses, on your deal breakers, on your deal makers, so that they can make the best fit. So that they're not up in the middle of the night, thinking, oh my goodness, this person just accepted a job with a relocation package and is moving 3 of their children and the husband all the way across the country. And I don't know if this is going to work out because I didn't understand truly who they are. So I would say, do yourself as a candidate, do yourself a favor and do the company and your recruiter a favor and be able to articulate that. And it's okay if you are not a sociable person and you don't like being in a crowd and that's who you are. That's great, because you're going to have other strengths that maybe can be utilized in the environment that you're comfortable with. But we don't know that as recruiters unless you tell us, where it's really kind of a shot in the dark of, well, we hope, unless people are willing to be open with us and have that conversation.
No, you're speaking to that. People will be surprised because so there was an organization, I won't say where, that I interviewed, and I interviewed for one position and I got offered a totally different one, but it was because of the authentic conversation that we had. And then once I started the position, I was like, wow, this was so much better than the position I had interviewed for. And had I not been transparent, had I not been true to myself, that match would not have happened. Do you know what I mean? They would have not known who Serena was at her core to be able to fit me in the position that I ultimately went to. So
Absolutely. And it happens every day. And on the flip side, from a hiring manager's perspective, they do the same sometimes too. I remember we had a graphic designer position that we were working on, and the hiring manager needed to set one of 3 applicants. So as we were going through and looking for applicants, there was this one individual that came in, and quite honestly, to be frank, he botched the interview. Had all the skills on the resume, just botched the interview. But when the recruiter really went in to take a look at who he was, his culture fit, his strengths and his weaknesses, we found this guy has never worn a suit in his life, has never worked in an environment where he had to wear a suit. He was putting that on because he thought that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to see. And that led him to be uncomfortable. It led him to be fidgety. It led him to not have the ability to show his passion and articulate his strengths.
Right.
And then immediately a hiring manager would have said no.
Right.
Luckily, recruiters like, well, wait a second, let's talk about this, because who knows, maybe this hiring manager is like, I don't care if this guy comes to the interview in jeans, if that is what is going to make him comfortable so I can see what he can do, then
Right.
I'm willing to do that. And that right there is probably one of the biggest mistakes that both candidates and hiring managers make.
No, 100%. Yeah, if you're not being yourself, it comes out and you lose opportunities no matter what, right? Whether it's your attire, whether it's what you're saying things that aren't true to yourself, whatever it may be, it actually lessens your opportunities instead of making them bigger and better.
Yeah. And they're deal breakers, right? But there are also going to be concessions.
Right.
That's not to say that as a candidate, we can put our foot down and say, this is, I am who I am. And then this is what I demand. It's a matter of, okay, I know what's going to make me comfortable, and I'm going to wait to find that employer who can provide it for me. But here's what I can make concessions on, because I know it's important to that employer as well. And it's a give and take.
Right. No, it definitely is a give and take. And the last thing you want to do is end up in a position where you're not happy or hire someone you know is not going to be a good fit. And speaking to that, so there's times in life where we may be looking to make a career change. It might be because we want to go on to something bigger and better and take on more responsibility. It may be, so we may be within the same organization, or there may be times where we're not happy and we're looking to make a totally drastic change in direction. What is some advice that you would give for people that feel stuck and they don't know what the next steps are? They don't know how to explore, and they may be scared.
I think the first thing to do is to find something that you're passionate about, and then look for the places that you can apply that passion. If you are stagnant and haven't determined what your next step is, then in my opinion, then it provides you with a clean slate to do what you love, identify what you love, and to do it. I think sometimes we get stuck, in my opinion, we get stuck in just what's the next step? Where do I need to go next? What's the right thing to do? Instead of looking at the feeling, why do I feel stuck here? Why do I feel like I need to make a change? Why am I not fulfilled? And then addressing those gaps and finding a place or a position that can help to nurture what you're looking for, that appreciates whatever that focus is that's important to you. It's not necessarily, okay, A, B, C, this is the direction I need to go. It's more of, okay, here's where I'm at and what's going to make me happy and put me in a position to be the best version of me next.
No, 100%. Okay, Jasmine, we don't have that much time left, and there's so much I could cover in our conversation. We may have to chit chat again. Just shifting gears again a little bit. There's something that you've shared with me that I think is huge for our conversation and for our audience today. So you spoke to San Manuel Recruitment Center, just watching you over the last couple of years. I know that, and some other things open doors for more interviews. You've been more forward facing. You've been on panels. You've done a lot, Jasmine. I don't know how you make the time to do it all, but it was funny because one day you shared a story with me that you had a fear of public speaking. And I would have never, ever, ever in a million years guessed that, felt that, even known that had you not shared your personal story with me. So can you share a little bit about your journey and how you overcame your fear of public speaking and got you to where you're at today, because you nail it with your interviews, girl. I can't even emphasize that enough.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I'd be happy to share it. It's helpful for me to share. It's interesting because not only do I have a fear of public speaking, I actually do live with anxiety. And my form of anxiety comes in an interesting way. It's social anxiety. So as most people would be, I'm so scared, I'm paralyzed of public speaking. Mine could be in the form of I'm driving home and I pass the gas station and there are too many people in there and I decide not to get gas that day. And I don't know when it's going to happen. And that's me. It's a part of me. And I was able to make life decisions that would protect me and not trigger me for a long time. But there came a point in time in life where I was kind of forced to make a decision. And it was a day where I had shown up to a symposium and my boss was presenting and she had me help her create the deck. So I had put the presentation together for her, went to the meeting so I could help her with the technical stuff, and couldn't believe it, 20 minutes before where she's about to get on stage, she is in a fender bender and is unable to actually get there in time. And there's no time to cancel. There's no time to rearrange. It was just one of those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, well, what in the world is going to happen? And my boss said, you're going to have to do it. It's your content. You helped me put it together. There's really no reason why you couldn't do it other than yourself.
Right.
And, I thought through and I was thinking, okay, I could stand up there and try to calm myself down. But my anxiety was crazy to the point where if your average person would stand on stage and try to picture everybody nude in order to calm down, my head would tell me, stand on stage, don't picture them nude because they're going to see that you're nervous. They're going to think that you're picturing them nude. And now you're going to make them feel weird and awkward. And it's like, I pull one thread and the whole sweater unravels. So this is not something I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, the crossroads was either I, get on stage, worst case scenario, pass out, hit my head, and I let myself down. I don't get on stage and I let everybody else down, including 100 people that are out there, the person that's right here who has to apologize and say, sorry, we're not having this, and my boss. And I'm such a people, I wanted to help. It's my core. I think my core superseded my fear. So I did it. And of course, got out on stage and I hit my head and I fell. Just kidding.
I was like, no, you did it. I don't remember that part of the story.
It all worked out okay. And at that moment, I promised myself that I wasn't going to say no based on illogical fear.
Right.
If there was a reason, if there was a valid reason to say no, then okay. But if at the end of the day, the only reason I could say no was because I was scared, then I needed to say yes. And that is why we've done all these things the last year and a half, because I tell my team, if you ask me to do it and doesn't matter how scared I am, if it's going to benefit us, then I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to be scared and I'm going to shake and I'm going to go through all the motions. But at the end of the day, I made that promise to myself. And every time I get over it, and I'm actually happy I did. And it gets easier and easier as you go. It never goes away, but at least it becomes manageable.
No, I mean, this is something we've talked about. I can 100% relate. It's funny. Here's another similarity. I love helping people. Always want to provide the most to do so, right? But I get such bad anxiety when I have to speak. Anytime I have to speak. And I too get in my own head. I overthink things, overanalyze. And honestly, I've put myself in that position more so in the last year and a half where I'm putting myself more forward facing, even doing this podcast today, it's something that I normally wouldn't do. But I know to grow personally and professionally, I need to put myself in those situations that I normally wouldn't. And not only personally and professionally, but also to set that example for my children, for anyone actually that may look to me for guidance, whether I'm mentoring, whatever it may be, is we might not always want to do what comes before us, And sometimes you have to do it, and then you realize you actually love it, you get better at it. There's always going to be things that when you watch yourself or hear yourself or in the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I said that, I should have said or done this, right? But I think no matter where we are professionally, that's always going to happen. We could be the best at something, but we're always going to find ways that we could do something better. And that's actually good, because that's helping us grow and improve and continually take things to the next level.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
never regretted taking a chance. I have multiple times regretted not.
Right. 100%. And I touch a little bit on, mentoring and family and, you know, um, how do you balance all that, Jasmine? Because you have a lot of things going on. How do you balance your personal goals and, your hobbies and family and everything alongside work? And is there anything that you would tell someone who's having a hard time doing that?
Yeah. For me, I'm so fortunate because I have such a deep passion for what I do. So
Mhm.
that really gives me the extra energy to keep going and to push more and to push more. I think when it comes to balance, though, because there's so many competing priorities, I'd like to establish my priorities. What are the three top priorities that are I need to make sure that I'm always addressing for the business? What are the top three priorities that I need to address for my family? What are the three top priorities I need to address for my mental health? And to always keep those in mind and to make sure that those are top of mind and that I'm paying attention to each one of those. And I'm not going to be able to give equal attention across the board,
Right.
right? But at least in those moments where it's overwhelming and there are 3 million things that are put on us on a day-to-day basis, and this just doesn't go for me, this goes for anybody in their
Yeah.
normal life. We have a lot coming at us. How
Mhm.
do you sift through that? And you have to be able to identify those priorities that are must-haves, more must complete in order for you to maintain your sanity, maintain your health, maintain your productivity.
No, 100%. I think, and just as you have to hold yourself accountable for at work and for everything you do, I think that translates into our personal life, whether it be us as individuals or for those that are around us. So I love it. Okay, Jasmine, final question. Next level casino careers. We're about bringing value to people. What are three things people can do right now, no matter what they are, not what they are, where they are in their career journey? Three things or three tips you'd like to give everyone listening today.
Three things I would say. First and foremost, invest the time to learn about yourself, whether that's a personality test, whether that's just trying new classes, new hobbies. Really do find out who you are and what you enjoy. Find that passion. And there are great personality tests out there that will help guide you in your strengths and your weaknesses and provide you with a foundation that you can build on. The next thing I would say would be talk to a professional or in the industry or a recruiter. Make sure that you're networking, finding out what is important to those successful individuals and being able to assimilate some of those things into your life for your own personal development. And the last one we talked about, and it's the opportunity meets preparedness. Always be ready for the next opportunity, always be prepared and be on the lookout for that. And be the best you that you could be at all points in time in everything that you do, because you never know when someone's watching and will take a look at you and say, hey, wow, that's stellar work there, and tap you on the back for a project or a stretch goal, or even just to say, hey, and talk to you with the other leaders in a side conversation. Those type of things are just little things that you could do every day to highlight who you are and to get on the radar so that you can take your career to the next level and others will want to help you do it.
No, 100%. And I tell my kids, try to tell myself this every day, is always be the best version of yourself, no matter what. Because that's the best you can do for everybody, right?
Yep.
And for yourself. So any final words, Jasmine?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's a
Oh, yes.
pleasure. I feel like doing it with you, I was a little less nervous, and just to be able to thank the tribe and San Manuel Band of Mission Indians and Yamava Resort and Casino for giving me the opportunity to share with you. And I look forward to what comes next for both of us.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I actually, before we end, want to share, first of all, yes, thank you. I totally feel the same. Like I said, this was my first time doing this. And when I heard it was going to be with you, I was like, yes, it brought a sense of comfort and ease to the whole thing. Cause I have that anxiety as well in speaking, and I'm still trying to overcome it. But some final words I'd like to leave everyone with is something that you actually shared at a recent leadership meeting. It's a quote. Each one of us can make a difference. Together we can make change. I love it.
One of my favorites. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, everyone.
Check out more episodes on nextlevelcasinocareers.com.